well, I guess I'm awake now. Might as well pick out a game for me to play for the day. However, I'm going to do it blindly. That's right. I'm going to take a risk and hopefully pick out a game that won't actually get me killed just because I have opinions that people might not like. Oh boy, I wonder what the game will be.
Kingdom Hearts is an action-adventure RPG that was released on March 28, 2002 in Japan. It was developed and published by Square, now known as Square Enix, and Disney Interactive Studios, rip in peace, as a sort of crossover for Final Fantasy and Disney where you save worlds from the heartless who are trying to engulf everything into darkness. You can tell that this game is going to get really cheesy very quick. Though the series is beloved by millions of players, it can be a bit overwhelming as all the installments are canonical to the major plot that travels between the three main games, creating this identity of a series with a complicated story to tell. Most of them are prequels to prequels, and a few stories that take place between the main three games. Like seriously, they made their mobile game canon as a prequel to the entire damn series. But today I'm not covering the franchise, just the original Kingdom Hearts that was released on the PlayStation 2. I remember this game as my parents bought it for me and my sister because they saw the box art and thought, hey, look, Goofy is on the box and our children sure like Disney, so let's buy that. And bada bing, bada boom, the first steps to poor decisions at Hot Topic are born. Now I like to make this clear that I really do enjoy the series. It's just a nuisance to hear how confusing the story seems to the most casual audience just because they look at it and sees it's too silly to be real. That and not a lot of people can take the series seriously when you have a main character that has such a gargantuous shoe size. I decided to pick this game as the first of many games as I think this will be a good start of hopefully many other games that I have in my library, as I have this huge roster of different games I do want to actually get to. So I'm going to do this series of videos just to show my first time and maybe some critiques. Not to be taken seriously, this is all my opinion, this is all just for fun. As well as it's been a game that's been stuck in the back of my head, as I always have my sister play, and I never beat it myself. Just because of that, I really want to redeem myself and finally deal with this game myself. So decades have passed now, and it's time to play Kingdom Hearts. Specifically Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix because I don't have a PS2. Why do I have this? Before getting into the game, I just want to establish a couple of rules just to give this game a fair look. For one, when critiquing this game, I will not compare its later sequels and prequels, as for the most part, those games are either completely different or more polished versions of the game. So making Kingdom Hearts 1 compete with its obvious, more superior little similes is just not fair. Second, remember that I am playing on the official port from the Epic Game Store. This does mean that this game may not play similar to the original game. That's okay. The only real thing that matters is that the game is playable and at least still gives the ideal experience that Square Enix intended. Plus, this game was remade from the ground up as they did lose the original file, so its charms may be still there. Third, I'll be playing these games blind as minimal help as possible. This includes no help from the internet and no guides, as I don't usually like to look up how to progress through the game, but if it's optional stuff like the Ultimate Play, that's fine. And the final note is to take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is all just for fun, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, even though how much this game has such a problem with how its story is, that's all fine here. That doesn't matter. That being said, time to jump into the game, and what better way to play it by showing how big my genitals are.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
And now we can finally start the game in this void full of Disney princesses background things, whatever. Yeah, this is a tutorial, and really the only notable thing to talk about here are what class you want to be and the questionnaire. Now the class selection is a bit different as the pedestals are placed each with a weapon and a sword for strength, a shield for defense and health, and a wand for magic and peak. How this works is your first choice will let you advance in the stats of the selected item, and a second choice to weaken the stats of the selected item. Depending on the combination of items that were chosen will dictate not only which stats will increase per level up, but will also dictate what stats you'll get on which level. I didn't know that last part, but I already decided on being a fighter build, so I picked the sword and gave up the wand because I don't need that magic at all. The questionnaire, however, will dictate your level progression based on your answers. If you picked all the first answers, you'll level up faster until you reach level 50. Pick a combination of all answers or all the second choices, you'll level up normally. Pick all the final answers and you'll level up faster after level 50. I also didn't know that. I just spammed the 8 button until I beat the tutorial. Once the tutorial ends, our hero wakes up, and on the island we are greeted by these two best friends, even though one is giving me this weird looking dead eye the entire time. This here is Sora. He'll be the main character we play as for the rest of the game. He's a curious young lad that just wants to sail off to other worlds with his friends, Then there's Kairi, the young girl from another world, and to be honest, she is just a damsel in distress in this game. Is missing for like 80% of the game, so don't get used to her. And finally, we have Riku, who is our rival in the game and also wants to leave and explore other worlds, even to the point of giving into darkness and being fooled by an obvious evil sorceress. Man, this guy's done. With introductions done, it's time to enter in what is essentially the second half of the tutorial Destiny Island. And I'm not gonna lie, I just skipped this part because I really wanted to get to the true part of the game. All that happens here is just fight 3 random Final Fantasy characters no one cares about to get better handle the game and combat and gain the XP early. Occasionally, these fun cutscenes of the B plot come in, and Donald and Goofy find out that the king is missing, and it's up to them to find this key in order to find the king. Gee, I wonder who this king could be. Coming back to the island in the middle of a storm, shenanigans happen, and Riku and Kairi are missing, with Sora holding a ridiculously long key, and now we are in Traverse Town. Because honestly, that second boss fight against Darkseid isn't worth mentioning. Just know he was the first tutorial boss, so take that as you may. Once in Traverse Town, we get more dialogue on what Heartless are, and the Keyblade from more Final Fantasy characters like the Ninja Girl, not a Final Fantasy VII lead man, and a Dead Girl. Another boss fight with Donald and Goofy happens that I may or may not have died a couple times, but the boss has died, and now our party is finally formed, and we can now venture off to other Disney worlds to see what I have missed from this game from all these years.
Once I deal with this mess!
So once you're able to leave Traverse Town, we are met with a traveling map and Chip and Dale explaining how this shit works. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't pay attention to this and tried to play the game without learning how to make this shit better. That's just a horrible idea. The gummy ship levels are extremely bland in the beginning with loads of no enemies trying to attack you, as they mostly just fly off to the screen to God knows where. Hell, the meteors are more lethal than the literal heart hunters that are feared amongst these worlds. In the late game worlds, the levels become annoyingly tough, so I figured it was time to make my new ship, who I named Kevin, with this clumsy mess made for this poor excuse of a vehicle customized garage, and the levels became more bearable, but still just not justified. At a certain point, I just spammed the laser attacks just to get through these damn levels so that I can get to the rest of the damn game. These levels are just not fun. Not even the customization, as it just feels like a hassle. No, the descriptions of some of these blocks and guns don't even give you a clear area of attack. Like, install the blasters in the front of the ship, yet they're shooting off diagonally for God knows what, and I can't get it straight no matter how many times I messed up with this stupid thing. Just going to move on from this rant. Leaving that behind, we have the next 3 worlds: Colosseum, Jungle, and Wonderland. Now, I'm not going to go into depth with 2 of these worlds, as for the most part, it's just go in, do the thing, and get out. At least in Wonderland, it has a small story progression with Alice being kidnapped by the main villains of the story, and a gummy that will allow you to warp travel to other worlds beyond the current 3. As for Colosseum, is an interesting level as it requires the player to go back to the world whenever a certain threshold completion is made. That way, a new tournament can be announced, so a new tournament can start to progress that world and gain new abilities. The Colosseum has 3 main tournaments to go through: the Phil Cup, the Pegasus Cup, and the Hercules Cup. Each one harder than the last, and can only be unlocked after beating the previous cup beforehand and after completing a certain duration of the story. Completing these 3 will lead up to the eventual keyhole and a new Keyblade for that world, the Olympus Keyblade, which is pretty good, especially if you're a strength build. Now, you can also compete in these previous cups either alone or get a timer in order to have a bit of an extra challenge and acquire new skills for yourself. I only did the solo runs. Those were all kicking my ass, and I'd rather not deal with them. Now, this place is also a good spot to level up, as you're stuck in a competition of constant fighting against enemies that are usually stronger than you. Honestly, the Colosseum is definitely one of the best parts of the game, as it's a good way to see your progression throughout the game, giving you a chance to fight enemies exclusive to other worlds that gave you trouble beforehand. But now you can show them that you are a bigger man after all the fighting you have done to this point. Well, maybe it's time to see what these other buttons do. If we look at the bottom left corner, we have the command list, and that is how we interact with the world around us. The options are simple. The first one is the attack or interact, second is magic, third are items, and fourth is irrelevant. You can select these options by using the D-pad to select the command you wish to use. At first, it's easy to use this in the beginning, as magic and item isn't very big, you don't have a lot to use at the moment, but once you start building up new spells and items, you quickly have a new hassle of quickly trying to select which one you want, only to either accidentally waste MP or an item you didn't want to use. Now for magic, there is a quick select you can use by buying 3 spells to the X, A, or B button whenever you hold L2. This doesn't seem right. As for skills, you can use those whenever the Y button or triangle for PlayStation controllers prop shows up on top of the commands logo. You can equip skills through the menu under abilities. Here we can equip as much as we can depending on how much AP you and the party may have. Each member has their own ability or AP to use, and there's a part that gives the entire team an ability for free once you unlock those. However, those you may just use once or whatever, like the swimming and the flying ability. Those are like world specific. And then there's equipment, where you can swap out weapons and bracelets to increase stats. Aside from customizing Sora, I didn't really use these options a lot. I just kind of let Donald and Goofy do their own thing. They don't need that much love. But enough of that. Let's up to your Disney worlds like Agrabah, Halloween Town, and Japan's worst nightmare. So these next couple of worlds are a bit of a mixed bunch. First there's Halloween Town, which is my favorite of the Disney worlds that are introduced, with its darker atmosphere, very catchy song of Halloween Town, and the small changes that are put in, like how the group are all changed into monsters to fit into the world. There's Agrabah, which is just boring. The music will put me to sleep. Most of the level is just the plaza, and it's just a straight line, and the boss fights just suck. Like, there's a pot that kidnaps Jasmine, that definitely killed me more than I want to admit, but all you have to do is just break all the pots with a sonic boom and then hug his face, apparently, just so he'll less likely attack you, because if you attack his tail, he will then definitely attack you. Then there's Jafar, who all you have to do is just follow him and mash the A button. In his first phase, he just gets staggered a lot every time you hit him, so there's no point of like doing anything weird. His second phase, he's not a threat. Really, the bird is more of a nuisance as he's flying around with the lamp. You just gotta fight the lamp and you'll unintentionally dodge all of his attacks. Monstro! Well, he's just a whale. Monster's kind of annoying to maneuver around due to the highs and lows, the funky camera angles, and the lack of a mini-map as every door looks the same. Because of this, it is possible to get lost in this world, but I'll be lying if I said the maze is complicated. Sure, you can get lost for a bit, but it's nothing that different. It's nothing that hard. If you just keep going straight and just use a quick process of elimination, you'll easily progress through the story. The only truly annoying thing in this is Riku decides to kidnap Pinocchio for his heart. Nothing sus about that. Only because he's bitter of thinking he was replaced by a duck. Truth be told, Pinocchio is a little shit here as he keeps being an idiot the entire time and follows the kid who's obviously not amusing with him and just not there for fun at all. Then there's Atlanta Neverland. I don't like these worlds. Atlanta's just a lousy map. Everything's underwater, which means your attacks are restricted to the basic aerial attacks without any benefits of an aerial attack, like certain air combos. As well, you cannot use skills like Sonic Boom and Strike Rate. This was just not an enjoyable map. I would rather play a boring map like Jungle and the Agrabah over Atlanta. It's just not great. The swimming is horrific. The map layout is, I would say, more confusing than Monstro. However, in the Neverland is where all the trouble for me comes in. Funny enough, the world isn't the issue here. Sure, when you fight inside the ship, it can be quite restricting as there isn't a lot of room to move around. Because of that, fighting just becomes a nuisance. But by the time you get to this level, fighting the Heartless shouldn't be much of a hassle. It should be like maybe 2-3 hits, with the exception of like the exclusive ones. No, the real hell in this is the damn Dark Sora you have to fight in order to fight Captain Hook. And goddamn, this fight frustrated me. Dark Sora not only hits you like a damn truck, but whenever you get to his health halfway through, he does this stupid thing where it crawls on the floor like a Shadow Heartless, then disappears, only to do a split-second uppercut and cycles through this attack until he stops. While in this state, you cannot attack him no matter what, and Donald and Goofy are usually dead at this point. I tried so many different ways to outlive this fight, just for the sake of beating this damn thing. I just tried spamming Strike Rate in order to outlive the uppercuts, only for either the attack to outlast mine, or I run through his tiny-ass room or chair long enough to die immediately. Crying out loud. Freaking Hook isn't anywhere near as hard as this mid-boss. And that's the thing, Dark Sora's just a mid-boss! And he was the worst fight I had to go through this entire damn game. And I have to do with Riku, Sephiroth, and Cloud, who are worse! Or supposedly! By the time I finally beat Sora, I already used up all my items that I brought solely for this fight, and I was done for the night when suffering in this fight. By the time I was done with this mess, I went back to the Coliseum and thought, okay, maybe things will surely get better. The Hercules Cup won't be as much of a problem. I have started to regret some of my early decisions. So this cup isn't too bad once you beat Cloud, but when fighting him, oh my god! It's just so damn hard to deal with this man. He kills me in like 3 hits, if I'm not careful, and when he flies around, it's just so hard to avoid him, and this only happens when you put him in his health halfway through. The only way I was able to beat him consistently is by spamming Strike Rate and abusing iframes against this stupid fake 1 week angel crap. It's almost like he's mimicking something even worse. We'll get to that. I eventually beat him in Hercules, completed the world story, and a new Keyblade. Whoopee! Yeah, you can tell I was not having fun at this point. Yep, so at this point of the game, I given the game like at least 3 to 4 hours of my time, and honestly, I still enjoy it. It's just a hassle. The music is fun and fitting for the appropriate settings there. The combat is quite fluid and easy to master. There are a few things I've died, but most of them don't seem that unfair. Honestly, most of the fights were a blast to go through. Not you! Hey, looks like there's one more world. Might as well go see what's in front of this castle.
Let the Keyblade choose. Its true master.
That bitch. This is Hollow Bastion, the second last world of the game, which I thought was the last one, but whatever. This is a great sight to look at. Whenever you look at it, honestly, menacing looking castle hovering over you. The music is calm and mysterious with a map that just has so much to explore. Any hidden secrets that might be lurking. It does help that in this original level that no connection to any Disney movie prior to this game's release, which means the devs had full creative control over this world without anything tying it down as a reference. At least not to an obvious point. And the Heartless Hero are some of my favorites by design, like the Guardian and the Mage, who I get the Final Fantasy vibes since they take inspiration from the usual classes you would pick in RPGs. So why did I hate playing this map in the first time around? Well, it doesn't help not long after you meet Beast, Riku steals your Keyblade, which leads Don and Goofy to leave you to follow the key. This leaves you with a wooden sword that does piss-ass damage, and to defend yourself with Beast carrying you for the duration of the beginning. Now, you do get your key and friends back once you enter the castle, but in order to do that, you need to go to the basement, do some stupid puzzles, and I was not having fun with this as this was just an annoying pace killer. The only thing that really made this part acceptable was using Beast, and if you're a magic builder, you have no problem. Your magic is left untouched. I am very regretting some earlier decisions. As I finally get to the door to the castle, I finally get my property back, and you have to fight Riku the first time, which he's just a chump. Skip forward to that, and now we get to go through the castle. And by God, it really is cool to go through. It's like going through a villain's lair with all these very strong mobs just chasing after you. It makes it feel like you're raiding in a villain's home. And like I said, this is a final stretch of the game. Especially when we get to the rooms where the boss fights take place. Speaking of which, Maleficent is the next fight, and she's also jumped. Just break the platform below her and just spam the A button. That's it. All you have to do is dodge her meteorites whenever she's untouchable and do it all over again. Now her dragon form, that's a different story. After getting a Zenkai boost from Riku stabbing her, she becomes a dragon and is way harder than before. She stands in the middle of the room with either doing a large tail whip attack, a fire breath, orb launching, or foot stomping. And each time those attacks land, they will hurt. They are a bitch to go through. She even stomps her feet at you, but only when she needs to adjust herself to face you. My solution to slaying this beast was to spam strike rate and abuse the iframes. Again. Now to be fair, I only used the attack whenever she was doing the tail whip because I could not dodge this attack for the sake of my life. But I chose changing the system for my salvation over whatever pride of Kingdom Hearts I have left. I couldn't spam this attack as constant though, as she will be smart and breathe fire you in the meal attack, so the moment you get out your iframes, you will get burned alive. Overall, I like this fight. This is a fun fight. It isn't cheap and it's not like difficult in terms of cheating. It's just a fairly difficult fight. Once Maleficent's done, we can go round 2 against everyone's favorite silver-headed idiot. We go up. We do a cutscene. Kylie's heart is apparently in Sora's heart. I don't know why. And for some reason, Don and Goofy can't enter the fight. Okay. Unlike the first fight prior to this one, new Riku has a whole new set of moves that are honestly pretty fast and would have killed me much sooner if not for strike rate. But even with cheap tactics, I did die several times against Riku, as every time I got closer to the goal, whips out a new attack that's too fast for me to react in time to dodge, thus dying. It doesn't help that this fight also falls into the category no allies as per mentioned, so I only have me, some items, and my useless use of magic. I really wish I had magic. This was a mistake. This was a mistake! Eventually, Riku is defeated, Kairi is saved, but won't wake up. Turns out, like I said before, her heart's inside Sora. Sure. So he uses the key that Riku has that apparently can open people's hearts and seppuku himself and dies! At least Kairi wakes up. Oh, and this guy shows up. Apparently he's Ansem. Kind of forgot to mention him. He's like this scientist dude that found the darkness. So that happens. So we get chased by Heartless, and then you come up as a Heartless, you follow the gang, you hug Kyrie, you're back! And now we can leave and we are back to Traverse Town. We do have to eventually go back as the Heartless have become much stronger than before and there's more goals that we can do as now we're at the ending of the game. Well, I guess there's one more world left, so let's get this. Oh jeez. Okay, right before we get to that, I will admit, so I did do the Hades Cup, which was way too annoying as I kept dying on each 10th round boss only to beat them due to eventual level up and items, only to finally reach the end of the Rock Titan, who was the easiest boss in the whole damn game. Like, Hades was harder. Why wasn't he the final boss? It's his own cup! I spent 3 days on this cup, and this is what I get. There's also the Gold Cup where you can fight Ice Titan who becomes unbeatable whenever you use a Roga spell. So I gave up on him. Then there's Platinum, which has... I got one-shotted when I step a single foot into him. I attempted this man twice, and I was already drained from Coliseum thanks to the Hades Cup beforehand, so I really wasn't up for any other near impossible challenge. I will mention for those who want to try it, there are other secret bosses like the Phantom and Snake Robot, but after fighting each of them for an hour and realizing I have to use a large amounts of magic in order to beat them, I just gave up and went to the final world. The Phantom, you have to use specific spells based on the color orb he has, so red for fire, blue for blizzard, I believe yellow for lightning. Maybe there's others, I don't remember off the top of my head. The Snake Robot is first phase, you just whack him on the head. Just make sure to dodge because he does hurt. Then the second phase, he has this bubble thing that you have to spam some spells in order to break it. Now there is another boss that appears in Hall of Bastion, but I couldn't figure out how to trigger it until after I beat the game. So I might come back to that one. The way to trigger him though is just to enter the end of the world, the final level, do the first cutscene, and go back to where you fought the Dragon Maleficent. Who knows? I might do that. And now we are at the end of the game. Thank God! At this point I am tired and just want the game to be over with. I have my ass handed to more times than I can count thanks to the Hades Cup and the Phantom, but I am in the home stretch, so here we go. The end is just neat. As a final world, it does its job, as it's just more of a boss rush-like level. You just get hit by waves and waves of Heartless that you have to beat to go through. Fairly difficult, they can drag, but it's all worth it as the few boss fights here are pretty good, like... Huh. I thought I was playing Kingdom Hearts, not some weird Demon Souls game. Chernobog? I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. As he is called when he debuted in Fantasia, is surprisingly one of the endgame bosses. And even though the fights kinda end with the gameplay alone, the piece Nine Ball Mountain playing in the background from the Fantasia series just makes this fight so much better alone. It makes the fight feel grand and powerful as every time you go in to attack the man, it gives you a feeling of stress and adrenaline as you fight the demon lord while trying to avoid his powerful blows that honestly can end you the fight in an instant. This man hurts! His fire pillar attack he does whenever you get too close. I believe he has like a little will-o-wisp thing that follows you around. His flame attacks that he will just burn around or at you. This is a cool fight. And honestly, I say the music in this level overall is what makes this final world as it is. Just gives this climax way more impact as you fight through these waves of Heartless in order to save the world from the dankness. You eventually reach the end where the game literally tells you that beyond this door there is no return. So I had to turn on my illiterate side and open the door so you can fight the final boss. Here's Ansem. This man has 3 phases, which each time his difficulty increases as the fight goes on. First phase is with the crew, and he's the easiest. You just gang him up on and whale him. Second phase, he separates Donald and Goofy, and we get inconvenience to this fight. 5 seconds later, the real second fight starts, and oh boy, this took a while. Without the rest of the group, he will only have you as a target, and this man will charge at you with the might of Hercules and BS, with an attack that you can't even hurt with him one going zoom. Now you can't deflect him. I tried. Sometimes I did. Most of the time I died. My lord, he is honestly much tougher than the first phase. And the third phase. He's much harder than the third phase for some reason. I've died like 9 times trying to beat this man. I was just done with this man halfway through my attempts. I just want the game over with at this point. This man can sneeze at me and I'll die without a chance to even hold my controller. Well, that's unfortunate. Once the reckoning is done, there's the final phase wanting to open the thing that the game is named after. Just like the second phase, the game gets separated off and you have a living battleship to fight when this fight was just tedious. Ansem twirls too much to give a moment to attack, and the fight just drags on pretty easily if you have to fly away in order to dodge or heal. Even when you rescue the rest of the party, it doesn't change the fight. He just sneezes at them, they just die. Finally, the fight is done and we see Oswald the Lucky King and seal the door with Sora, and the crew gets sent to the next game, and that concludes Kingdom Hearts. With the credits rolling, all my frustration and stress finally relieved from this slaughterfest I have to go through. And I gotta say, well, that was fun! Oh, don't get me wrong, there were times where I died with a feeling of being cheated on, but most of the time the difficulty was my fault, as I chose a harder difficulty in order to compensate for myself as a real gamer. But I did enjoy the game. The music is so memorable and fantastic that it makes the game feel like a magical adventure. The gameplay is so fluid and responsive with so many options and methods that the fight never gets old. And I may not be much of a Disney guy, but each of the worlds do truly feel like the movies that they're based off of, giving a better immersion, like as if you're in the movie and not some sort of fan service whatever. Overall, this game was fun. I'm glad I finally beat this game that has haunted me for so long just because I couldn't beat it when I was an idiot. If you want to try out Kingdom Hearts, I say give it a try. It's simple enough and easy to play, even as an RPG. I'm sure anyone can enjoy this experience, just don't max out the difficulty, you just want to have fun. I'm sure people who can and prefer playing a max difficulty, and that's fine, but for those who just want to play the game casually and want to experience for the first time, I recommend the normal difficulty and ditch the sword and prioritize magic, as this is a magic heavy game. Like, holy heck, there is way too much magic going on that is needed.
Well, Logoji, after all that, what do you have to say about the experience that we had today? When will we play the second game? When I get there.